For Creamer Media's Polity, I'm Mutsabi Hwayani. Researcher and analyst Professor Raymond Suttner joins Polity to reflect on the meaning of former President Nelson Mandela's path through the trial proceedings of 1962 and 1964. In your column, you reflect on the 1962 and 1964 trials of Nelson Mandela and other accused. Would you please tell us more about Mandela's poise and aura in the apartheid courtrooms?
Yes, I think that what Mandela did in these court cases was really a continuation of what he had done in the 1956-61 treason trial, where he gave lengthy evidence explaining the policies of the ANC. But in the 1962 trial, it was very dramatic. He arrived in court wearing abaThembu attire. He wore the beads of abaThembu and he wore a cloak, and it shocked the courtroom. And that was not the end of it. He immediately brought an action for the magistrate to recuse himself. Usually it's a technical reason or it's something to do with individual bias, but Mandela said I am a black man in a white man's court. The whole atmosphere of the court, he says, was suffused with whiteness. There was a white magistrate, a white prosecutor, all the officials of the court were white. All the laws had been enacted by a white legislature whose election black people had not participated in. Consequently, he said, I cannot achieve justice in this type of court because the history of the laws of South Africa are laws that oppressed the black people of this country. The magistrate dismissed this and said, please, Mr. Mandela, stick to the legal case that we're dealing with. But he continued to present the history of the reasons why he was in court. When prosecutors bring a case, they just want to show that you committed an act and you had the intention to commit it, therefore you're guilty. What Mandela did is he put the government on trial. He showed the background to his being accused, that it related to the whole history of seizure of land, oppression of all black people in all aspects of their lives, freedom of movement, freedom to live where they wanted to, education, etc., etc. And at that stage, they didn't understand that Mandela had already formed Umkhonto with Sizwe, and he had been outside the country training himself. Consequently, he only received 5 years. I'm saying only. Compared with life imprisonment. But he was hauled back to court in 1964 in the Rivonia trial, where he became accused number 1. And from the beginning, those who were on trial decided that they would turn this into a political trial. It was a political trial, but they would go on the attack. And when they were asked to plead, they said, not guilty, the government should be in the dock. And the judge said, this is not a time for political speeches, but they kept on saying that. And then what they decided is that while Sisulu, Mbeki and others would go into the witness box, Mandela would make a statement from the dock. That is something where you're not cross-examined, where he would explain the whole history of the struggle and where he made that famous statement about being willing to die. But I think it's important to mention that Sisulu was giving evidence. Before giving evidence, they isolated him from the other accused. They thought they would soften him up. And Dr. Yuta, the prosecutor, thought Sisulu is a man with only standard 5 education. Here am I persecuted doctor of laws, and he thought he would make mincemeat of Sisulu. But he misunderstood. Sisulu was very cool, and he just answered when he got abusive questions, he just answered calmly. Now Mandela made this statement, and I think what is important for us is when you say you are prepared to die, Mandela says, you must understand what that means. A lot of people undertake things, but when it comes close to the moment when it's going to happen, they decide they don't want to carry it through. And in this respect, Mandela was very similar to Gandhi. Gandhi and Mandela never undertook what they were not prepared to carry out. And Mandela prepared himself, and all the accused expected the death penalty. They prepared themselves for that. So when Mandela said he was prepared to die, he explained something which I think has a bearing for all of us in our lives, where we don't face the death penalty, but where we face difficult choices. Now, when you face difficult choices, you can either decide to do what you believe is right, or you can do what is beneficial to you but is not right. But if you decide to do what is right, and it's difficult to do, you have to unify your ideas and your capacity, your psychological capacity to do it. Because I know when you find yourself in a cell on your own, it doesn't help you that you know the Bible inside out or Karl Marx inside out.
Yes.
You've got to have that combination of moral commitment and understanding in order to survive. That's what Mandela showed us.
Okay, Prof, you suggest that on Mandela's ultimate legacy is his ethical core. In just a few words, how would you sum it up?
You have to put your money where your mouth is. In Mandela's case, he had to put his life on the line. He was willing to make sacrifices. That wasn't the first time he went to jail. He was charged in 1952 after the Defiance campaign. What I think we can learn from Mandela is that, as he says, and he adapts this from Nehru, there is no easy walk to freedom. Even now we have the vote, but freedom is a long process. And it's a long process which is important for us to embark on, to critically examine ourselves. What I've said about Mandela is that he continually changed. He had the integrity to be able to recognize that he should examine what he has done and, if necessary, change, as he did when he embarked on negotiations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Professor. That was Professor Raymond Suttner discussing the period that set in motion a chain of events that made former President Nelson Mandela a household name worldwide.